Good afternoon and welcome to Channel 1 Lunchtime News on this 9th day of June 2021. Glad you could make time for us, time for comprehensive and live bulletin right here. Remember, we are also live on all our social media platform, and I will be glad to sample some of your responses or even where you are watching us from. My name is Ben Njue, and Wangeshi will be our sign language interpreter for this afternoon. We begin with education matters, where Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has called on the national and county governments, development partners, faith-based organizations, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders to support the implementation of physical education and sports policy. Professor Magoha says competent-based curriculum is the only right trajectory to providing a solid framework to help learners acquire skills and competencies through physical education and sports. The Cabinet Secretary spoke as he launched the first ever physical education and sports policy at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development ahead of Grade 5 CBC rollout next month.
Secretary, through this policy, ladies and gentlemen, in concert with all stakeholders, we'll ensure no learner is left behind as we seek to pass the benefits of physical education and sport to learners, including those with disabilities. Physical education and sport impact positively on academic performances while providing a platform of wider social inclusion. And I want to give you that with my own example this morning. I wasn't feeling very well, and I was not sure I will come this morning. But having done a 10-kilometer run, I'm as fit as a fiddle, and I'm here.
Urged Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha to ensure children are not sent away from learning institutions for failure to pay school fees. The MP challenged the CS to craft a friendly fees payment system and policy through the Ministry of Education, which will allow parents to pay school fees in manageable installments in order for all children to remain in school.
Hiyo anaitwa Alphonse Wambua.
The Mavoko legislator Patrick Makau has urged Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha to rescind his directive that gave schools a leeway to send home learners for failure to pay school fees.
Mwananchi lazima aambiwe alipe pole pole mpaka siku ile itapatikana. Anapata basari kidogo, anaongeza kidogo, alafu kidogo ujaza kibaba.
Speaking at Mulolongo Chiefs Camp, where he issued National Government Constituency Development Fund, education of Kenyan households were greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and were to make ends meet.
2020 there was no business. Biashara zote zikaenda chini. Watu wakaenda nyumbani.
And professionals in Kericho County have called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to rescind his decision on the 6 Court of Appeal judges whose appointment was suspended.
So we ask you that kindly resign your decision and please swear all the judges.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Elsewhere, the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, is appealing to county governments to review licensing guidelines for bars and restaurants to include plot numbers and exact locations. The institution claims that some bar owners are using one license to operate more than 10 bars.
Speaking after a meeting with Northeastern Regional Multi-Agency Teams, the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, CEO Victor Kioma said that some bars had been open next to schools, while others in places where security is a challenge, thus risking the lives of people.
The county authority need to be keen about the premises where these are. They describe them properly. They also need to know what they are selling in those premises, and they must also conform to minimum public health requirements.
Okima at the same time took issue with those pushing for the legalization of marijuana.
Currently, under our legal framework, marijuana is only licensed for medical and scientific reasons. That is in the law. But if you are saying for recreation, then you can see what you are talking about.
Northeastern Regional Commissioner Nicodemus Ndalana said the security teams in the region will do their best to stop drug trafficking in the region.
We have vowed and we have agreed that we'll make all efforts to make sure that we fight drug abuse in this region at large.
The meeting brought together all county commissioners and county police commanders from the region. Police have in the last 1 year intercepted close to 1 ton of bang in the region, with several cases pending in court. Patricia Waidera for Channel 1 News.
Moving on, President Uhuru Kenyatta has told Ethiopians that the entry of Kenya's technology giant Safaricom will help transform their country by positively impacting most sectors of the 112 million population economy. Using the examples of Safaricom's impact on the Kenyan economy over the years, President Kenyatta lauded Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed and his administration for choosing to liberalize the country's telecommunications sector.
President Uhuru Kenyatta spoke on Tuesday evening in Addis Ababa during the issuance of an operation license to the Safaricom-led Global Partnership for Ethiopia Consortium, which won a 91.8 billion shillings bid to operate in the country.
Beyond service provision, we take pride in Safaricom as a key enabler of self-employment, enterprise, and dreams. Indications are that by opening your economy to Safaricom and its consortium members, Ethiopia will in the short and medium term add no less than 1.5 million formal jobs.
President Uhuru asked the Ethiopian government to consider opening up opportunities for mobile money services as part of the telecommunications liberalization process.
As leaders, we would want this partnership to thrive for a very long time. And in this regard, I once again urge the Global Partnership for Ethiopia Consortium to embrace best business practices, as this is critical to fostering lasting bonds between our two nations, whose goodwill has brought us this far.
He said mobile financial services are key in addressing various societal gaps, particularly gender disparities, as they open up opportunities for women to participate fully in economic development.
I do believe as leaders we are duty-bound to build on the shared history, the common values, similar dreams, and deep connections of family, friendship, and business to bring Ethiopia and Kenya even closer together. And I believe this ceremony today is the first step in an exciting and rewarding opportunity for Ethiopia.
On his part, Ethiopian Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed said the award of the telecommunications license will catalyze inclusive prosperity. Dr. Abiy said the competition will create a vibrant telecommunications sector that will significantly contribute to the growth of the economy through creation of jobs and the rise of new MSMEs. Global Partnership for Ethiopia, which brings together Kenya's Safaricom, South Africa's Vodacom, UK's Vodafone, British finance agency CDC Group, and Japan's Sumitomo Corporation, won the 15-year license in a competitive bidding process, making it the first private telecoms player in the country.
We pledge to invest in Ethiopia as we have in our home markets, offering our customers superior network connectivity and efficiently enhance our network products and services to ensure value for the country.
And closer home, a 3-judge bench has begun hearing a petition by the Ogiek community from Mount Elgon seeking repossession of their ancestral land in Chepkitale, Trans Nzoia. Justices Boaz Olau, Justice Stephen Kibuja, and Justice Nelly Matheka are presiding over the 5-day hearings in Bungoma. The petitioner's lawyer, Lempa Soyinka, said the community has every right to claim their ancestral land. Lawyer Nixon Sifuna is acting on behalf of the Attorney General and the Kenya Forest Service. The community was evicted from the forest in the early 90s by the Kenya Forest Service, relocating them to Chepyuk. They have petitioned Kenya Forest Service and the Attorney General for unlawful eviction from their ancestral land.
Claiming that that's their ancestral land and they should have it. Part of Mount Elgon Forest, that is the Chepkital area. I think the Chepkital area is wider than that. It covers Chepkital Reserve and part of and the outlying areas.
Wana haki ya kitamaduni ya kumiliki hilo shamba, ile kwa kimombo ama lugha ya kikoloni tunasema ancestral rights. Wako na hiyo haki ya kitamaduni, ndio wanasema imekiukwa na serikali kupitia shirika la misitu na shirika la kulinda wanyama, na wamewasilisha kesi hii. Kesi hii kama mlivyoambiwa iliwekwa mwaka wa 2017, imekuwa ikiendelea, na saa hii majaji watatu kama walivyoteuliwa na jaji mkuu anaisikiza kesi hii, ndivyo imalizike haraka iwezekanavyo.
And traders in Kasarani Market, Busia County, are counting losses after suspected burglars broke into their shops at night and made away with property of unknown value. The suspects broke into several shops, including that of a prominent businessman, and stole money and fruits belonging to vendors.
Mwendo wa saa 6 usiku, saa 5, tulitokea na wavamizi zaidi ya watu 50. Wakavamia hapa, watchmen wetu wakajaribu kupiga ripoti polisi, mpaka saa hizi hawajakuja. Hofu yetu hatuna usalama.
Biba duka, vitu zote za duka wamebeba zote. Kama ya pesa ya 1350. Na pia pesa pia nilikuwa nimewacha kwa duka pia walibeba. Walibeba na simu zilikuwa customer ameniachia sakushaji, walibeba.
Tumekuwa tukiripoti kwa polisi na wakuji. Hata kuna wakati watuvunjia soko hapo ndani. Waizi wakaiba vitu zetu, kaenda kupiga ripoti kwa polisi huko, akasema watakuja kutuangalia. Hakuna matokeo yenye yalitokea na hakuna majibu yote yalitokezelea, ikabaki tu hivyo. Tukaenda tu hasara hiyo vitu, ikaenda tukaanza kujimudu tena maisha mengine.
Sasa tungeomba Inspector General Mtebai na Mr. Matiang'i waweze kufanya reshuffle hapa Busia, kwa sababu hakuna kazi polisi wanafanya.
Let's shift focus now to conservation matters, where a section of farmers from Alia area, Motate, in Taita Taveta County, accusing the Kenya Wildlife Service of planning to grab their mineral-rich land. They claim that they have been living in that area for more than 30 years and wondered why KWS now wants them to vacate the land. They claim that the real boundaries beacons between Taita Hills Wildlife Sanctuary and Alia community land are well known. The aggrieved farmers are calling on the national government to halt plans of building an electric fence around the land, even as they fault local political leaders of ignoring the issue for a long time.
Je, waya hii iliombwa bungeni na KWS ama iliombwa na mwananchi ama iliombwa na Taita Hills? Na kama iliombwa na KWS, je, shamba la KWS liko wapi? Na kama waya hii iliombwa na mwananchi ili imulinde pamoja na rasilimali zake, kwa nini atolewe katika shamba lake? Na kama iliombwa na Taita Hills, je, waliomba kwa ajili gani? Hiyo tu ndio maswali ya mwananchi wanataka wajibiwe na KWS.
Mbunge wetu ameshikana na watu wa MAB kuja kutupokonya ardhi.
Tunamtaka governor awe hapa ili aelewe mwananchi vile anavyoumia. Hii waya hatuitaki hapa, tunataka iende National Park. Huko ndiko sehemu ya wanyama ilipo.
And at about 15 minutes past the hour, you're taking our first break. But before we do that, thank you, Tony Mchafuzi, watching. Freddie Masika, you're also tuned in. Nyandieka Roni, watching from Nakuru. Dixon Olesimama Tende, watching live from Masai Mara. Margaret Maomoyo, you're also tuned in. Let's have that break. More news in a bit.
sikiza tune hii, Ufunuo wa Yohana 38 dial *811 *817#.
Wakati mwingi katika maisha binadamu hujipata kwa shida, unapata ya kwamba hauna usaidizi unaohitaji, biashara zinaisha, hakuna mapato ya kila siku. Lakini hata kwa hayo yote, Biblia inasema ya kwamba katika kitabu cha Ufunuo wa Yohana mlango wa 3 mstari wa 8, na yajua matendo yako. Tazama, nimekupa mlango uliofunguliwa mbele yako.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya Yohana 38 dial *811 *817#, dial *811 *817#.
Next on.
Mimi kwanza nina kizunguzungu, niweke tu chai kwanza.
Kizunguzungu ishindwe hapa, tuzi kizunguzungu. Ngoja kidogo mwanaume, kaa hapo. Ngoja nikusafu hata kama ndasi ngapi?
Lete zote.
Ati zote. Leteni pesa kwanza. Mtoe pesa kwanza.
Lete zote.
Unajua sisi na kina nani? Nituulize hiyo swali.
Haya.
Chini hapo. Unataka tu tunarudi hapa kwa mara ngapi?
Leo ndio nilikuwa na jaribu yani.
Unajaribu nini? Ongea haraka.
Hebu ongea haraka. Nilikuwa na jaribu leo ya mwisho.
Kaa chini. Ni mara ngapi tutakuwa tunakuja tunakuambia ufunge biashara yako hapa? Kaa chini.
Kaa chini madam.
Huo ni ungwana.
Welcome back. We are glad you're watching. Moving on, turtles hatching along the shores of the Malindi Marine Park have increased in the last 5 years. Marine officials attribute the increase to the constant beach cleanups and security along the marine protected area. To mark this year's World Ocean Day, marine conservationists engaged in a beach cleanup exercise before taking time to visit turtle hatching sites.
On the occasion of the World Ocean Day, marine conservationists in Malindi, Kilifi County came together to celebrate in style. They divided themselves into two groups, one consisting of divers led by Sergeant Abdi Bocha, went underwater for over 1 hour for a cleanup of marine protected areas, and the other one did snorkeling the shallow areas to make sure there were no plastic wastes. Journalists joined the team of divers to witness the underwater cleanup from the boat. Sergeant Bocha said they managed to see hundreds of turtles underwater swimming and enjoying life within the marine protected area.
Area ilikuwa mzuri. Tumefanya diving salama. Nilikuwa na mwenzangu diver Ranger Bernard Kome. Na tumerudi salama, hakuna shida yote imetokea huko. We usually do our underwater cleanup every month. That's why the area is so clean.
Lydia Elan from Kenya Wildlife Service said Malindi was the first marine protected area in Africa and third in the world, and that is why it is very important to maintain the status quo.
We've had 2017, we had a total of 14 of them that nested here. In 2018, we had 26 nests that we recorded. In 2019, we had 15. And 2020, we had 10 nests. So this year, since January up to today, we have a total of 33 nests that have been laid here on the beach. And out of those, we've had a hatching success rate that is above 80% for all the natural nests. For the translocated nest, we have a bit lower hatching success, but we hope to improve that.
Grace Matura from the Kenya Wildlife Conservation Association and Kate Mwikali of Progressive Welfare Association said they were happy to be part of the World Ocean Day celebration in Malindi, which aims at encouraging people to conserve marine and ocean.
Know that the marine ecosystem and habitats is facing one of the biggest threats, and which is plastic pollution. And so we are commemorating this day with Malindi Marine National Park together with the Kenya Wildlife Service and the communities that surround this park to join them in the collection of plastics and other wastes.
Tumepata turtles wameongezeka wengi, tulikuwa tunaenda underwater cleanup, lakini kulikuwa hakuna uchafu kabisa.
hakuna uchafu kabisa kwa hiyo Coral Garden. Pia kwa beach leo kulikuwa na clean up ya beach inaendelea. Garbage pia imepungua kabisa sababu watu imekuwa kama lifestyle. Kusafisha sasa watu wamezoea.
Elsewhere, children living with disabilities are said to benefit from donations by several colleges and Malaika Trust. Speaking at the CURFEW International Hospital in Kijabe during the donation of 30 linen bed covers and 2 sets of 50-inch television sets, Safaricom Chief Customer Service Manager Sylvia Mulinge promised to support vulnerable children across different countries. CURFEW International Hospital Chief Executive Officer Abel Milelu, on his part, promised to play his part in giving the necessary treatment and physiotherapy services to children living with disabilities.
Pediatric, I think the only pediatric orthopedic hospital, referral status level here in the country. And we spent time with the team today just walking through what are some of the outcomes they've been able to achieve.
When a child is born with disability, they are not a problem just to the immediate family. They're a problem to us as a society, as a community, as a country. And so whatever we can be able to do to support these vulnerable children, you know, most of them are from marginalized communities and you know, places. We need to be able to do that in a big way.
Now, the practice of buying foods from the streets has become the main source of income for most street vendors in the country, who now depend on the business to put food on their tables and pay for their bills, such as school fees for their children. We bring to you a story of a 26-year-old father of one who is among youths in the country who have refused to be part of unemployment statistics by creating their own jobs, albeit on a small scale. Take a look.
Wakati nimebuni hii jiko, kwanza lazima nikiangalia COVID-19 protocol ambaye ni usafi na hali nzuri ya kuhandle ile mahindi, kwa sababu wakati imeiva itakuwa ni chakula ya binadamu, watu wanaitumia kwa sasa. Lakini jambo tunalolifanya wakati tukitaka mass production, huwa tunaongeza wafanyikazi. Kwa hivyo kama nilitaka majiko 10 kwa siku moja na kuwa na watu 10. Hapo tumetengeneza kazi kwa vijana yetu.
Further afield, dozens of children, most of them girls, have been abducted by jihadist groups in Mozambique over the past year. This is according to a British charity, Save the Children. The charity has called for the immediate release of all the abducted children and for the perpetrators to be held to account.
At least 51 children have been abducted amid violence and insecurity in Mozambique that has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. It notes that the number of children's abductions is likely to be higher than the number of cases reported. The charity has expressed concerns that such abductions were a new and alarmingly regular tactic by armed groups involved in the conflict. Elsewhere, U.S. President Joe Biden is set to take the global stage this week with a COVID-19 vaccine sharing strategy that has been termed by Congregational Democrats and health advocates as too timid. European allies, on the other hand, say it is too bold and has led to frustration with his administration. Biden's global vaccine strategy has prompted a flurry of White House efforts to answer critics, with a new announcement to bolster the plans expected ahead of President's appearance at the Group of 7 summit in Britain this weekend. The outgoing Israeli government has given the go-ahead for a march by religious nationalists, which was cancelled by organizers over fears it could trigger another conflict. The flag march through the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem was originally to take place on Thursday, but police rejected the original route and the march will now happen next Tuesday. On the other hand, Hamas, the Islamist movement that controls Gaza, had threatened further escalation if the march took place. Mercy Njoki for Channel 1 News.
We are taking our second commercial break, but when we come back, I will be telling you what is in store for tourism industry, especially with tomorrow's budget.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You'll soon receive the summons. Wipe those tears, they don't move me at all.
This boy is under my protection. Understand? So I don't want you to be messing with him. Huh? Let me go! Get out! What about my mother?
I saw her at the airport, and I noticed that someone was following her and taking pictures of her all the time.
Do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
What should I do then? I don't know what Mr. Ulysses would do if he found out I helped Mariana and Ivan.
But how do you intend to do that?
I think I already know who can help me.
Who?
Cesar.
Next on.
Mara ya mwisho ulikuwa na Nancy ilikuwa.
I know they'll be coming for me soon.
Sichukue ndege moja uende South Africa ukajifishage huko.
I have built too much here in Kenya to just walk away.
Kusikiliza Kinyi Tiffany walikuwa na piana na Eriko hapa nje nikasido.
Nani alikuwa mtuma?
Wayu ni kuongea ukweli tu ukweli. Sasa nani alikuwa amekutuma?
Wewe. Mlikuwa mnapiana nini?
Na nani?
Sina Tiffany.
Mbona? Nataka nijue kama niko kasi.
Kama you can live, I'm sure Wayu will feel you in.
Oh.
Maji mimi hata niliashaga opea na udaku. Siku hizi mimi nikiongelezwa na mtu kitu inaisiaga hapo hapo.
On the next episode.
Chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, uwekezaji katika sekta ya kilimo unaendelea kuisaidia nchi hii kuafikia malengo yake ya uzalishaji chakula cha kutosha. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254.
Serikali walipokuja kuintroduce kazi ya visima, tukakuwa nafuu kwa sababu hata mifugo yetu wamepata maji. Tukarudi na tukaintroducewa kazi ya ukulima na maji.
Mimi nimekuja nimefanya kazi hapa shambani kwa sababu mmetusaidia. Nipate pesa mtoto arudi shuleni kwa sababu nimefaidika kwa hizi mashamba.
Wenzetu wametuletea elimu, kumbe ardhi inaweza toa hata ng'ombe mingi kushinda hata ile tulikuwa tunafuga.
Alhamisi, 2:30 jioni kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. In business, Kenyans want the 2021-2022 budget to prioritize socio-economic sectors in a bid to cushion them from the current tough economic challenges. Speaking to KBC Channel 1, those in Nairobi said that allocations of funds to social programs will shield them from unemployment, high cost of goods and services, and the high cost of living. Their remarks coming just hours before National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani presents the 3.66 trillion shillings budget in the National Assembly.
Naona wanashughulikia sana infrastructure nini but tunafurahia for those hizo ma projects pia wanafanya, but tungependa pia washughulikie wasekaa sisi.
Ni ajira ama ni chakula ama ni ukulima ama ni mambo ya barabara. Kama ningekutana na yeye saa hizi, pesa mingi sana angeiweka katika agriculture. pesa mingi sana angeweka upande wa agriculture, ingine aweke kwa industry, ambapo tutapata wakulima wakisaidika, tutapata ajira kwa ma-industry.
Much of it inaenda kwa infrastructure, which is not bad, but for now tunaweza tamani sana, like if the budget would concentrate on some projects that will directly impact on the people. Barabara si mbaya, but at least we need some sort of balance. But at least kila mtu feel like we are all Kenyans.
Unajua sahi life ya sahi by the way ni tricky sana na ni hard. Na kitu ya kwanza lazima tuwekwe into considerations kama wananchi. Na kitu yoyote kabla ipitishwe ama iamuliwe, sisi wananchi tunafaa tuongee, wapeleke bunge watutetee iko approved.
Moving on, the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development is banking on public-private partnership PPPs to drive the government's manufacturing agenda. Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Osiani says PPPs are key in achievement of development projects such as the Big Four agenda. Osiani made the remarks when he led a high-powered government delegation on a tour of Bidco Limited ultra-modern processing plant at Tatu City in Kiambu County.
And Kenya needs to be a major player because of this massive regional market. We can only be competitive if we facilitate our local investors and our industries to grow and produce for that market.
We have put in place programs that are engineered or are designed to ensure that counterfeit products do not have access to our markets.
The Geothermal Development Company has struck a huge well estimated to yield about 17 megawatts equivalent of steam in the Baringo Silali project. GDC Managing Director Engineer Jared Othieno said the big well is a pointer of the huge resource in the region.
The Baringo Silali Geothermal Development Project covers 3 prospect areas, namely Paka, Korosi and Silali. GDC has been undertaking exploration drilling at the Paka and Korosi prospects. So far, 5 geothermal wells in the Baringo Silali region have been drilled successfully. The latest is a well estimated to yield about 17 megawatts equivalent of steam, which GDC Managing Director Engineer Jared Otieno says is a pointer of the huge resource in the region.
They struck one of the biggest or the most prominent geothermal well in Paka. So they should look to it that in the foreseeable future, we should be able now to see reliable power and a cost-effective power, so that they can be able then to see an opportunity also for direct use. This area can be able to be changed so that we can be able to start seeing what we call industrial parks, but we can call them resource or heat parks within this area.
He credited the success of the project to the resilience and commitment of his field staff, COVID-19 notwithstanding.
I think this is a period that the team has been able to bring on board about 3 wells within that span of the COVID pandemic, something that we've not done in a while. Now, the resilience has been brought about by the teams themselves being able to ensure that whilst they are within the prospect area, they observe the protocols.
The KFW German Development Bank is financing the initial phase of the Baringo Silali block that is estimated to have a potential of 3,000 megawatts at a cost of 80 million euros.
A social component was actually integrated within the project itself. Within the project, we have about 20 watering points. And these are purified water that is fit for human consumption, so the community can be able to come to those watering points and be able to get themselves drinking water. Also, we have within the same area, we've identified 40 livestock watering points, which then the community is able to bring their livestock at different times to be able to give them water.
As part of its CSR program, GDC has integrated its water system to communities for domestic and cattle use that runs up to 160 kilometers supplying purified water.
Even though Lake Turkana has the potential to produce 35,000 metric tons of fish annually, apparently 5 metric tons are harvested due to poor fishing gear. To boost production, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, has partnered with government agencies to support the fisher folk under the Omo Turkana Basin Fisheries Core Management Plan.
Under the deal involving the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, with government agencies, the plan will be undertaken in Kenya and Ethiopia with the main objective of supporting sustainable management and development of fisheries to alleviate poverty. The Acting Director of Fisheries Management and Development, Roderick Kundu, says for years there was little investment in the fisheries sector around Lake Turkana.
And one of the challenges that we have is that our people don't have the equipment to move into deeper waters and exploit the resources. We call it artisanal, small-scale fisheries. And with a plan, it will create room for infrastructure development so that the resource users can go deeper and explore more.
He says the IGAD project will be small-scale fishermen as it will address the issues of food security, nutrition, and source of revenue.
Lake Turkana has the potential to produce more than 30,000 tons in a year. And you can imagine what that will add to the value. It is the largest fishery resource in the country, besides Lake Victoria. But because of the environmental challenges there has been very little investment.
The 5-year program will also seek to enhance the safety of women and vulnerable communities as demand for fish globally continue to rise.
The agenda of ensuring that we have a well-managed ecofish programming is to ensure that communities' livelihoods are improved. We improve nutrition, we create employment, we ensure that we protect our environment, and as we work together.
The project will also support sustainable utilization of Baro Akobo Sobat River Basin between Ethiopia and South Sudan and Lake Turkana Basin between Ethiopia and Kenya.
Moving on, the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly is proposing an upward review of the debt ceiling to enable implementation of this year's budget. Committee Chair Kanini Kega says by end of March this year, the stock of public debt was 7.34 trillion shillings, which is 82% of the current 9 trillion shillings national debt ceiling. This emerged during debate on the budget estimates on Wednesday in the National Assembly.
Shy of the. According to the approved budget estimates, the government expenditure under Consolidated Fund Services will increase by 24% to 1.33 trillion in the next financial year, starting next month, due to an increase in public debt service expenses, which constitute 88% of Consolidated Fund Service expenses.
The Consolidated Fund Services will amount to Kenya shilling 1.3 trillion shillings in the financial year 2021-2022. For the first time, the Consolidated Fund Services will surpass the recurrent budget that we have had. This is a 24% increase. That is by 253 billion from the financial year 2020 to 2021 levels, and is primarily on account of increased public debt.
The chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly, Kanini Kega, has warned that implementation of the budget hangs in a balance owing to an increase in expenditure against diminished revenue returns.
Honorable Speaker, by end of March 2021, the public and public guaranteed stock of debt amounted to Kenya shilling 7,334 billion, representing 82% of the 9 trillion national debt ceiling. The committee is concerned.
Owing to this, the Budget Committee is recommending that Parliament increases the debt ceiling to give the government wiggle room against a shrinking budget flexibility. In the financial year 2021-2022, it estimates that the executive expenditure will account for 43% of the total annual budget and 65% of total revenue collected.
The financial year 2021-2022 budget may not be implementable if the debt ceiling is not adjusted.
The National Treasury projects a total revenue collection of 2 trillion shillings, an increase of 210 billion shillings year on year, with income tax projected to increase by 102 billion shillings to 835 billion.
Kenya export quality has largely remained unchanged, with the countries exporting most low primary products as opposed to manufactured goods. Honorable Speaker, other risks to the macroeconomic outlook include the rising fuel prices, the foreign exchange rate fluctuations, political uncertainty, Mr. Speaker, as the country approaches the general election, and the possibility of introduction of strict COVID containment measures in the second quarter of 2021. If these risks materialize, then the economic growth may be lower than the projected, and this will further constrain the resource envelope. Honorable Speaker,
However, the Budget Committee warns that the expected revenue performance is subject to economic recovery against risks such as COVID-19 disruptions, high cost of fuel, and political uncertainty. The committee recommends that the National Treasury sets up a fund by October 2021 that may be financed through a long-term bond for the payment of existing verified pending bills and court awards.
The funds should be in place, Honorable Speaker, by the 1st of October 2021. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, there should be an infrastructural board. There are so many pending bills in the Ministry of Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, if that one, of course, is done, definitely we'll be able to offset some of the debts that we have.
The adoption of the budget estimates by the Budget Committee is a prelude to the budget presentation of the 3.66 trillion shillings budget on Thursday afternoon by the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Okur Yetani. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And as the rollout of coronavirus vaccines continues, the US has eased travel rules for 61 countries, but not the UK. Travelers from the US to the UK must self-isolate for 10 days on arrival, as the country is on the amber list. Here are the details of this and other stories from across the borders.
The US has lowered the status of avoid all travel rating for 61 countries. Countries such as France, Spain and Italy are now level 3, which means fully vaccinated passengers may go to these areas. Travelers from the US to the UK must self-isolate for 10 days on arrival, as the country is on the amber list. However, most passengers from the UK are banned from traveling to the US. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, says it had updated its criteria to better differentiate countries with severe outbreak situations from countries with sustained but controlled COVID-19 spread. The CDC expects more countries to get lower ratings in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, British Airways and Ryanair may have broken consumer law in not offering refunds to customers who couldn't legally take flights due to COVID lockdowns. The Competition and Markets Authority say the airline's stance could have left customers out of pocket. The airlines offered other options, but both refused refunds. However, British Airways